Okay, so the first one asks, what's the slope of this graph? And that's an easy answer. It's 0 because it's flat. So anytime you have a flat slope, that's 0. If it was like straight up and down like that, that's undefined. So flat slope 0, undefined like that. In between slopes, in between 0 and undefined. Let's look at the next one. Write the equation of this line. Well, we know an equation of the line is y equals mx plus b, where m stands for the slope and b is the y-intercept. The y-intercept for this graph is pretty easy to see. It's right there. And the slope, if we did this, would be down 2 and over 3. So for this graph, we get y equals negative 2 over 3, x plus 1. And that would be the graph of this line. Let's look at the next one. We have to find the x and y intercepts. And so what an x and y intercept means is an x and a y intercept is kind of where they cross these things. So what you would know is that the y-intercept, there's no x value. And for the x-intercept, there's no y value. So for the y-intercept, no x value. For the x-intercept, no y value. So if I do this, if I want to find what the x-intercept is, I'm going to cover up that y value. And then we would find that when we solve this, like negative 6x equals negative 9, that we would get the x to be 1.5. And so now if we were going to do this for the y-intercept, we would do the same thing, but this time, since we want the y-intercept, we don't need an x value. So then we would divide by 3, and the y-intercept would be negative 3. So just make sure whenever you look for the x or y-intercept, you're going to cover up the value that you do not need. Let's go to the next one. This, we want to write the line equation for these points. So if I have to write a line equation for these points, I know that's going to be y equals mx plus b. First, I'm going to find my slope. So I'm going to find my slope by doing y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, because it's rise over run. So we're going to figure out our rise distance by figuring out how much up we go. And we're going to figure our run distance by how much over we go. So that would be negative 2 minus a negative 4 over 3 minus negative 3. And if you do that, you're going to get 2 over 6, which would reduce to 1/3. So our line would be y equals 1/3 x plus b. Well, to find what that b value is, I would need to plug in these points. So you could do that by looking at all 4 choices and plugging them in. I'm going to plug them into my equation that I don't have something for yet. So I could pick either one of those. I'm just going to pick that first one because it's easier. So I'm going to say negative 4 is equal to 1/3 times negative 3 plus b. And then when I do that, I'm going to get negative 4 equals negative 1 plus b. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. And I'm going to find that b is equal to negative 3. So if I really wanted my line equation would be y equals 1/3 x minus 3. So again, you want to find your slope using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then after you find your slope, you're going to solve for that b value by replacing the x and the y with those. Let's look at the next one. We're going to solve this equation, and this is a radical equation. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that 3 because it's just sitting over there. I'm going to get 9 is equal to the square root of x minus 3. And then once I have this, I want to get rid of this radical. So how you get rid of a radical is you're going to square both sides. That'll cancel with that. I'm going to get 81 equals x minus 3. And I'll add 3 to both sides. And my answer would be x equals 84. So again, what you want to do with each of these steps is first get everything away from the radical, and then once you got the radical by itself, square both sides and then solve. This next one, we need to state how many solutions these things have. So I'm going to graph it to find that, but you don't need to graph it. You could just solve this by using substitution. But I'll graph it. I'm going to start up here at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to go up 3 and over 1. So 1, 2, 3 and over 1. And that's this first green line. Now we're going to use the blue line. Well, the problem with the blue line is it's not in the right form. So let's get it in the right form. So to get it in the right form, we want x and y on opposite sides. So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. So I'm going to get 4y equals 12x plus 16. Then I'm going to divide by 4. And when you divide by 4, everything gets to be divided by 4. So this is going to be y equals 3x plus 4. And you'll notice that that literally is the same line. So I would graph that blue line right on top of that green line. And we call this situation either all solutions or the identity, or infinitely many solutions. So all solutions, identity, infinitely many solutions, whatever you want to call that. Let's try the next one. This one they want me to solve and see how many answers I would get. I could graph it and just see where these two lines cross. But instead of graphing this, I like to use substitution. So if I know y equals 4x minus 8, and I know y equals 2x plus 10, y and y are the same. So this really means that 4x minus 8 equals 2x plus 10. Then I can add 8 to both sides and get 4x equals 2x plus 18. And then from there, I can subtract 2x on both sides and get 2x equals 18. Then I could divide by 2 and get x equals 9. Well, now that I know what x is, I can find y by plugging that back in. So I would have 4 times 9 minus 8, which y would then be 36 minus 8, which is 28. Oops. So again, what you want to do to solve that is, since they're both set equal to each other, you know that they should be equal, so you just find that answer. This next one, we have to set up an equation. It says the sum of two numbers is 20. So I would have x plus y, because I don't know what the two numbers are, and they equal 20. So the sum of two numbers are 20. Add one number, add the other number, should equal 20. And now it says the difference of two numbers, so if I subtract those two numbers, it should be 4. Now if you look at this, this is set up perfectly for substitution, or for elimination. So for elimination, if you ever have the two equations stacked, you can just add them straight down. So that'd be 2x, that'd cancel out, and that'd be 24. And then you just divide both sides by 2, and you'd get that to become 12. Let's try the next one. Again, this is stacked for elimination. So we could add straight down, but if you noticed, nothing would cancel out. So what I would need to do for this is I would need to make sure something canceled. To make sure something cancels, I would need to times the top by 2. So that's going to give me 40x plus 6y equals 40. And then we'll put that one beneath it because I didn't do anything to it. And now I can add. Those will cancel. This will give me 16y, and this will give me 160. Then I'll divide by 16, and get y equals 10. So now that I know y equals 10, to find what x is, I would plug that into either one of these two equations. I'm going to pick this bottom one because I didn't have to do anything to it. So it'd be 40x plus 100 because 10 times 10 is 100, equals 120. I would then minus 100 from both sides and get negative 40x equals 20. Then I divide by negative 40, divide by negative 40, and we get x is equal to negative 0.5. So that would be my answer. Try the next one. So suppose you invest $10,410 in manufacturing equipment. And assume each game costs you $2.65 to manufacture, and they sell for $120. How many games do we need to sell to break even? My first question would be, how much money do I make for every game? Well, if I make $20 and it costs me $2.65 to make the game, I'm going to use my calculator for this to make it a little bit easier. But that would be 20 minus 265. So I make $17.35 for every game that I make. Well then, if I want to know how long it's going to take me to get to 1410, all I would have to do is, if I sell one game, I make $17 about. If I sell two games, that's about $34. I would just have to think of how many times that this would happen, or if I did 10 4 10 divided by 1735, that should give me my answer. So I'll do that really quick. So I would need to sell 600 games before I would break even. And after I sell 600 games, that's where I'd start making a profit. Let's try the next problem. For this, we need to write some line equations for this. So the first thing I would do is I would just write what they are without the inequalities, and then write them with the inequalities. So without the inequalities, we have y, and we won't put our inequality sign, but this one starts at 3, so it's y-intercept is 3, and then its slope would be up 1 and over 1, 2, 3, so it'd be that. Now this equation, this dotted one, would start at negative 2, and its slope would be down 1, 2, well, let's figure out where it's going to cross, because it doesn't look like it hits nicely anywhere. So 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1, 2, 3. So it looks like in most cases it goes down 4 and over 3. Now we just have to figure out what sign that is. Well, see, this is above this line right here. So above is greater than, and because the line is solid, that is equal to. And this line, because it's dotted, it looks like it's still above this dotted line, so it's greater than, but it wouldn't be equal to, because the line is not, the line itself is not, I don't know what I'm trying to say with that, but the line itself isn't solid. So yeah, so it wouldn't be equal to. Try the last one. This, we just want to fix the errors that we have, or not even fix the errors, but we want to write this without any negative exponents, because we don't want negative exponents. If you remember from before, negative exponents mean to divide. So this would be x squared over 2 to the third and z to the 7th. And this would just be our final answer. So anytime you see negative exponents, you know it means to divide, so go on the bottom. If you need any help, just let me know.